Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Rise Up. I'm Alia Halal.
I'm Kevin Omar Al-Mahdi.
And we're joined here with Hadil Al-Khuli, our Human Rights Outreach Coordinator. How are you, Hadil?
How are you, Alia? Good to be with you again. How are you, Kevin?
Yes, sister.
Very happy to have you here, and we're excited to hear more updates from what's happening around the world with believers in terms of their human rights and their different cases of persecution, the campaigns that you've been doing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the most tangible openings, successes, results, blessings that we have seen in this work through Abu Sadiq alayhi salam and through his guidance and the advocacy on the cases of our members was that in the end, all of this work is to give protection, to give safety to people who were forced to flee their homes, flee their countries because of their beliefs. And one of the most incredible things that we've witnessed is that these members were able to actually be granted asylum in countries in the EU, recognizing them, protecting them, and making that statement that their right to not just practice their faith, but to publicly manifest their faith should be protected. So This was absolutely incredible to see, and especially in a record time. So we had the case of the 104 in 2023. And we've seen how the UN and many international human rights organizations in that context, in that event, for the first time shed the light not just on what happened at the border, but why are these people there and what led them to be in Turkey to begin with. So that was kind of like a window that looked into, so who are these people and why are they persecuted and where? So from there, there was increased awareness and increased interest in the reasons for persecution and in the faith. And after this incident, we've seen the involvement of several UN special rapporteurs and several state and non-governmental organizations, including the UN and the OSCE, that spoke about the persecution in different countries, and also Amnesty International, several other civil society organizations. And the most incredible thing was that we've seen shortly after that, Spain was the first country that granted asylum to our members, and I think just to see how many thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of refugees, especially from Muslim majority countries, from Arab countries, find themselves completely stranded, stuck between borders, risking their lives, losing their lives, families losing their children, losing their youth, drowning, and nothing is really being done about that, and their pain, their agony, all of that goes unnoticed. And here we see Abu Sadiq alayhi salam, how with the event of the 104 and with the persecution that the members went through, he really flipped the world upside down and didn't rest until these members got asylum and are now in safety and are safely and openly practicing their faith. And I think on the morning show you had many of them where you were actually showing their lives after they made it to safety and their lives after that. So that was really incredible to see.
It is so incredible, and that's such a great point you've made, Hadil, that there are people that are suffering, wanting asylum, trying to find refuge, but there's no one to take care of them, and they're just struggling to survive, them and their families. While there are those who are actually pledging allegiance to God, and once they've given God their allegiance, God takes that so seriously that, as you said, the vicegerent of God, who is Abu Sadiq today, would never sit back allowing that his people be persecuted in these terrible ways. He's always actively involved and invested in their lives and in their futures, and he makes sure that some noise is made, and a noise that will have an impact, which we are clearly seeing by the reactions of all these different entities.
Exactly. And I think what was incredible is that it wasn't that's the difference when your leader is a man from God, is an appointed messenger, king, leader from God. That case, the case of the 104 and all the other cases were, used not just obviously to try and protect the members of the faith, but also to address and show the plight of all other
Exactly.
human beings who find themselves in these situations. And we've seen, for all those who followed the lectures of Abu Sadiq alayhi salam, how much he has spoken about that, and how much, especially the 104 who were detained in Aderna, it really opened the window on what's happening to the people who are there.
Yes.
And because of that, we had many human rights organizations and discussions in the EU, because of the case of the 104, discuss what is happening there. As the 104 were there, because of the big media case, they started to have one committee after the other that comes to monitor and to see what's happening, because the members were obviously releasing one testimony after the other about the conditions in the detention center. And because of that case, the whole administration, by the way, was changed during the
amazing
in the detention center. In there, they even told us they came, and after the administration was changed, they changed the whole furniture. They made improvements in the place, and they were also monitoring of cases of people, of asylum seekers who've been there for almost a decade.
Wow.
Almost a decade.
Imagine that, 10 years of your life gone sitting in an asylum center.
In which conditions? Because the conditions that the believers told us that they were going through are horrible.
So inhumane.
Right? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, eating food that had plague with the human hair, and being in a place where there's the
no
bathroom.
Hygiene
Exactly. Sitting on dirty water. So imagine being a decade like this. And there had been no media coverage of this.
There was no awareness.
Right? Exactly.
As the story unraveled, we ourselves were learning what happens in these places, and it was so shocking. It was so terrifying.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that this, and there were people who were in that detention center who were speaking to the members of the faith, and they said, "Wow, man, if we had a leader like you,
Wow."
Because they've just been here for a few months, and just their presence changed their whole conditions.
Wow.
Some of them even, and Alia, maybe you remember, after they were released, we received emails from people on the outreach email. Do you remember?
Yes,
there was
exactly.
an email from someone who we didn't know who they were and who he was, and he was like, "I'm from Somalia, and I met members of your faith in the Aderna detention camp, and they've spoken to me about your faith, and I would love to know more." So they were people who, imagine, after being for such a long time in a detention camp, you will go back to resume your life, but that the believers had such an impact on these people that the first thing that they do when they come out, they're like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Who is their leader? What are they doing?
What is this phenomenon that they saw?
Yes. I think one of the most inspiring things that I have seen all through all these human rights cases that we have had over the past 1 year, 1 or 2 years, since the release of the Goal of the Wise, and since when Abu Sadiq made this sermon of clarification where he told the people, go and openly declare your faith. We have seen many times that, I remember when he called for people to go out in the streets, manifestation after manifestation after manifestation, there was a police crackdown of the manifestations of believers. And I remember, for example, one of the most inspiring things one of the most inspiring scenes that I have seen is when the Malaysian brothers were arrested, and as Brother Nizam is being taken to the police van, he raises his fist as in
protest,
in protest, and also as a show that the believers at the end of the day, they are happy to be, they are willing to go through this in order to be able to openly state, hey, this is what we believe in, this is the man from God that we are following. And on one side, and also we have seen many testimonies of people saying, yeah, we're happy, they are from the prison, and they are happy to be able to basically give like visibility to our cases through going themselves through these processes.
Yeah.
So on one side, it is very inspiring to see the believers so willing to fight for not only their own, but the right of every single believer on the planet to express their faith publicly. But on the other hand, I think if that was not met with Abba Sadek's efforts to bring them to safety, that could go into nowhere.
It would have gone in vain. It was his enforcement, right?
Exactly.
It was his direction on how to be a true human being and what principles we should have, how we should be brave, how we should be faithful, and why we should stand up for our rights. And this is something he taught us. He taught us that you have a duty to stand up for your own rights and the rights of others.
Yes.
And that's what we have been doing.
And that God himself has a duty to protect the believers.
Exactly.
Once they make this step, God will take them and he will not let them go. And I think, all these processes of human rights, you have been behind most of them, I could say, or all
Absolutely.
of them. Yeah. So how has it been for you working on all these cases for all these past period of time? I remember, the first time I came into collaborating with making posters and this was when the Algerian believers were arrested in Algeria, and it has just been again and again and again and again and again, right?
Yeah, I think I'll start from the last thing that you said, that protection that Abba Sadiq alayhi salam gave them. The fact that they go out and publicly manifest their faith is a protection in itself. Why? Because how did it start? It started in Algeria with members of the faith sitting in their homes. They're sitting in their homes, they're studying, they're reading the book together.
Just living together.
They're living together. They're not even doing anything publicly. If they were, it would be of their right, but they weren't. And people in Iraq, a man sitting in his home with his daughter and his wife at night, and he wakes up to militia gunshots at his house. The Algerians in Algeria sitting in their home, waking up to a raid of 10 to 15 policemen storming in their house, going through their private stuff, taking them to 15-hour interrogations with children, giving them no food, no drink. So no matter what you do, if you're sitting in your home, if you're reading your book, The Goal of the Wise, if you're putting up a Facebook post, no matter what you do, the members were getting harassed, targeted, persecuted the whole time.
Zulkifl's story.
Zulkifli's story, a man who his relatives decided to file a police report against him because they saw he's not fasting Ramadan.
My goodness.
Wow.
So now, of course, I will go on the street and I will publicly demand my right to freely practice my faith, because I have been terrorized, traumatized, and in these countries that claim to be Muslims, that claim to be following the words of Prophet Muhammad, and nothing is happening. And I need to now, at this point, I have no other choice but to let the world know about it, that this has been happening to me, to my family, and I am no longer able to live in safety. So that the fact that they now go out on, because people are asking why do they publicly manifest their faith, why do they put up, because I have no choice, because I have to, of course, because it's my faith and I'm proud of it and I have every right to do so, but there's a whole story that, when I was in my home and I was doing nothing, you weren't there, when the police came and attacked me and they put me in detention. No, you weren't there to defend me and speak up for my rights, so now I have to do it. And I'll do it not just for me, but I'll do it for all the other members of the faith. And you know what? For any other person who's oppressed, who their government let them down, the media let them down, and the whole world let them down. And that's what the 104 did. And to see that was incredibly humbling over all these years. And I see myself just lucky enough to to see the inspiring stories of the believers, and to see that story of courage and that story of love between them and their imam, them putting their whole trust in God, their whole trust in Abu Sadiq, and Abu Sadiq protecting them and promising them that they will come to safety, and they do come to safety. So just to be able to be honored by telling the world about their stories has been the most incredible, rewarding experience.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And we were very fortunate that we were able to know through you what's going on there, and we're all so fortunate, just as one big believing global family, to have that guidance, that leadership from Abu Sadiq, and we've seen a transformation over this decade, but very rapidly also over the last couple of years even. We've seen a very huge shift in the mindsets of different spheres of life, whether it's religion due to the knowledge that's coming out from the lecture series of Abu Sadiq, or whether it's to do with the believers that are increasing in number and also learning what their rights are, and actually going out there and being unafraid, being bold and brave enough to be who they truly are, as is the right of every human being on this planet, the God-given right of every human being, and God is giving them their rights back. So thank you, Hadil, for giving us those insights. It's such an amazing part of the work we do here, and it's so precious to us that we remember it, we go over it, we appreciate it. So thank you for giving us that opportunity.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you so much.
And we will be right back after a short break, so stay tuned.